It is on, yes. Welcome back from coffee, everyone. I hope you feel refreshed and strengthened, and I would like to call your attention, if I may. Now, by now, we have referred to the global stock-taking exercise several times during today and yesterday, and by now you will have realized that we put great value in it from the CBC side, and that we use it, and that we find that it is a useful tool, that it's only when we have reliable data that we are actually able to know where we find ourselves and how we can move forward together. One of the areas covered in the stock-taking report is quality control and quality assurance systems. And we now have Einar Gurrison, the Director General of IDI, to help us to kick off this discussion with a presentation on the relevant section from the stock-taking report, since IDI is the organization that is actually managing the stock-taking report. So Einar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Magnus. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, before I start my presentation, just say that I'm actually delighted to see so many of the topics that came out of the stock-taking being discussed in the CBC, both this meeting and last year. And I think that's really the purpose and the value of the stock-taking report. It's not an exercise done in isolation. It should really be something that triggers discussions about areas, challenges and opportunities. And I would like to commend the CBC for taking these discussions stemming from it. And for those of you that do not know the stock-taking, hopefully most of you do, it's something we started back in 2010. And it was originally started actually under the INTOSAI donor corporation, in light of the fact that we found that there was very, very little data in terms of SEI needs, SEI performance, SEI challenges. So we're doing this on a triannual basis, and I think it's being expanded each year to cover new areas, so it gets more thorough and covers additional areas each 3-year period. But with the view of actually getting data that is of the desired quality to actually measure where we are in terms of SEI performance across the world. And the idea was also that it would, well, at least halt and reduce the number of other surveys being carried out in INTOSAI, because we know that there is quite a bit of survey fatigue within the SEI community. There's a lot of surveys out there. I'm not sure we have reached that goal entirely yet, because there's still a lot of surveys, but at least some regions like EuroSci and others have taken this very much on board and actually using this data in terms of their work. Anyway, in my presentation today, I'm going to speak very briefly about 3 things. A little bit about quality control and quality assurance and the importance of it. My main focus will be on the status of quality control and quality assurance coming out of the stock-taking report 2017. And then a few words about the global perspective in terms of actually what the IDI is doing and is planning to do in terms of supporting SEIs in this area. Doing high quality and robust audits that stands the test and is in compliance with standards is the bread and butter of every SEIs. And having strong quality control and quality assurance functions are indeed prerequisites and necessities to actually ensure that we actually carry out the audits in accordance with the standards we state to be applying. And we also see that there are instances probably within INTOSAI where SEIs would state that they are doing their audits in compliance with the SEIs, but without having proper quality control and quality assurance mechanisms to actually be able to verify this. And that is also a risk into the credibility, not only of the SEI, but also in terms of the standards. ISAI 40 on quality control was endorsed by INTOSAI in 2010, and it builds on the key principles in the international standards on quality control. And the purpose of ISAI 40 is to support SEIs in developing and maintaining a quality control system that covers all their work. It looks at quality control and quality assurance at the organizational level, with more details at the engagement level within the standards for financial compliance and performance auditing, respectively. Very often when I come to SEIs, there is still a confusion in terms of the terms. quality control, quality assurance. And many places they're still sort of used interchangeably without a different definition. When we look at it in context of the stock-taking report, I think it's very clear that the quality control here is the policies and procedures put in place to assure the work is consistently of high quality and is usually carried out through the audit. While quality assurance is a process in the SEI established to ensure the quality controls are being properly implemented and that potential ways of improving quality controls and thereby audit quality are identified. And together, they very much form the part of the SEI quality management system. In the stock taking, we drew on a different sources to actually come up with the data that refers to QA and QC. We had the global survey that was issued to all SEIs around the world, and with a response rate of about 90% of SEIs, we managed to get a lot of data. We also have data from the International Budget Partnership that do surveys on SEIs, and we also were able to draw on 25 SAI-PMF reports to actually look at the domain of quality assurance and quality control. And I think the fact that we are getting more and more SAI-PMF reports that actually examines these areas and other areas, that really gives us an evidence base for looking at performance and progress is very helpful. So what are the overall conclusions? Well, the overall conclusion is that we have a challenge in INTOSAI around the world when it comes to quality control and quality assurance. And indeed, it's one of, I think, 8 areas we flagged up as critical findings of the stock taking. Together with issues like independence, parliamentary follow-up of reports, etc., etc. We've also seen that there are huge discrepancies between regions. There is very clear that quality control systems in particular, but also QA systems, have taken much deeper root in certain regions than in others at this stage. Perhaps surprisingly, however, there seems to be not that much of a difference when it comes to income groups. Yes, the low-income countries are lagging behind, but between the rest of the income groups, there's actually surprisingly little differentiation in terms of the results. Moving on to quality control first, we are seeing that according to the global survey, the vast majority of SEIs state that they have quality control systems in place that cover both financial, compliance, and performance audit. 78% state so. And if you look at the different audit disciplines, you see that financial audit is probably the audit discipline with the most SEIs having quality control, but it's fairly evenly spread across the disciplines. What we are seeing is also that when it comes to SEIs with jurisdictional controls, the number drops dramatically. That might be due to the system itself, but there's a remarkable gap in terms of the number of jurisdictional SEIs that do not have quality control. When you turn to the SAI-PMF, we also see that 40% of SEIs that have undertaken a SAI-PMF report are found to have ISA-compliant manuals in place for quality control. That means on the SAI-PMF a score of 3. But we also found, worryingly, that only 20% of SEIs seem to have implemented quality control in line with ISA 40. So obviously, scope to do more on this. We also found that quite a number of SEIs are not implementing quality control. I mentioned jurisdictional SEIs as the group that stands out, but you will also see when I spoke about income groups that also high-income SEIs, there are 11% of SEIs that do not have implemented quality control systems. Moving on then to quality assurance, we have 3 different sources of data. The first is from the global survey, where 71% of SEIs report having a quality assurance system in place. However, if you go to OBA data, that's the Open Budget Index, they also conclude that a fairly large number of SEIs have a QA system in place, 66%, but also that only 34% of these operate in compliance with ISA 40. I have to slow down. And the curve here, or the graph, illustrates the OBA data per region. If you turn to the SAI-PMF assessments, the 25 assessments, the data becomes even more concerning. Only 18% were found to have manuals and guidance in place that was compliant with ISAI 40. And implementation is even lower. So clearly, quality assurance stands out as one of the areas where SEIs are struggling as we go forward. We also asked SEIs, how do you carry out quality assurance systems, or your quality assurance checks? And we found that there were three main mechanisms being utilized by SEIs. The first was that, and the most used, was that an SEI had a separate audit quality assurance unit, section, division within the SEI. But also a large number of SEIs didn't have a quality assurance system in place or a dedicated section, but used other divisions, departments, and sections to do it. While the third thing that stood out was that a number of SEIs also used external systems for the assessment. That could be peers, but it could also be other institutions within their country. I think it's important to recognize that quality assurance is challenging. It's not a surprise, I think, that we have this data. It comes at the end of the audit cycle, and it really requires that the SEI has been able to develop a proper understanding of what standards are, how they implement it, and have a good quality control systems already in place. We're also seeing that many SEIs, the sheer size of them makes it very hard to have a proper quality assurance system in place within your SEI. If you're an SEI with 5 or 6 auditors, it's a tall order to be expected to also have a proper quality assurance mechanism in place within that SEI. So I think also when we have our discussions afterwards, it might be worthwhile to reflect on, is it possible, for instance, to look at regional mechanisms for quality assurance? Is it possible to look at SEIs setting up systems together to deal with these issues? Sometimes something we, for instance, have discussed in the Caribbean lately. And what are the real barriers to having proper quality control and quality assurance systems in place? A little bit about efforts at the global level when it comes to quality assurance and quality control. As I said, we have recognized that this is a challenge, and it's something that we already at the IDI has tried to build into our ISAI implementation initiative, the 3I. And with our new strategic plan coming into place next year, we will expect to have a work stream on professional SEIs, where again, quality control and quality assurance will be central. We are working on a number of global public goods at this stage, QA tools for financial, performance, and compliance audits based on the ISAIs, as well as common guidance on conducting quality assurance. And these drafts will be out later this year, with a view also for finalizing them, and also them being global public goods that all SEIs can utilize going forward. We are also in the process of launching a pilot called the Professional Education for SAI Auditors, or the PSAP. This is going to be a learning program that is going to be offered to 600 auditors in the pilot phase across the world. And here we will have a syllabus for cross-cutting competencies, which includes education on quality control and quality assurance, and emphasis on quality as a cross-cutting aspect in the syllabus for all 3 audit disciplines. So this is something that we are working on now with partners in the CBC and others to design and to launch, because we recognize that there is a great need for both more professional auditors, but also to have more focus on quality assurance in this going forward. As part of many of our programs, we also have cooperative audits, and we've introduced a quality assurance system also in these audits, where we do QA reviews of audits that are included in these programs. And here we arrange to find appropriate personnel from both within the SEI community and from outside the SEI community to actually complete these quality assurance assessments. We've also, for next year, planned to support a small number of SEIs in setting up the QA functions. This will be done on a needs-based and readiness-based assessment. And we will tailor this to the specific needs of the different SEIs. And also, when we look at ISA implementation at the SEI level, QA and QC will also be included as part of that. Finally, we are also trying to support the regions in this area by training quality assurance reviewers for financial audits, performance audits, and compliance audits, so that we have regional pools across the world. And as I said, we will continue having the QA as part of all the regional audits going forward. I'll stop my presentation here and hand over back to the chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Einar, for both giving us the, this expose of the stock-taking report and for sharing with us some of the IDI's menu for assistance to SAIs. You asked two questions, which I think regional representatives might want to think of over the next 15-20 minutes. You said, what are the real barriers for establishing proper QA/QC systems? And you also asked the question, is it possible to have regional such systems in place? Perhaps that is something to think about. At least it was a question tossed out from the podium. But before letting the regional organizations in, I would like to turn my attention to our donor partners. We have a few donors in the room, and partners often support SAI products, or SAIs rather, so that the SAIs directly or indirectly could improve quality and improve quality in their delivery. So I know that a few donor partners want to share or are willing to share their reflections on that particular theme, on the issue of quality and the necessity of quality. And I know that Susan is willing to start, isn't it, Susan?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, my name is Susan Wille. I'm representing the European Commission. Thank you very much for inviting us. The European Commission, just to put you in a framework, is a very large donor. We are having cooperation with more or less all the countries in different degrees and on different levels, of course. In many countries, we're supporting reform, improvement of the systems of public finance management, of course, of which a good Supreme Audit institution is a very important part. And in about 90 countries in the world, we're giving budget support. Budget support means that we're putting money directly into the national budget, under conditions, of course. And this money gets then executed, implemented through the national systems by the country for their own policy, and of course, controlled, audited by their own national audit institution. So you see that for us, the importance of a good quality audit, of a strong and performing Supreme Audit institution in a country is double. Very closely related reasons. First, we're trying to support the country in building up a modern public administration, so that this country can continue its way, live its life, execute its policy as good as can be. And Supreme Audit institutions doing good work are part of this. So, recognizing the independence of supreme audit institutions, recognizing their special place. Of course, support to supreme audit institutions is not quite as easy as support to the government. We recognize this, sometimes we struggle a bit, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. But we're trying to do our best with your help. The second reason why we think a good quality audit is important is more, how can I say, a vested interest, our own interest. We're putting our taxpayers' money, European taxpayers, and I'm paying taxes as well, so we're putting my money into developing countries' budgets. And we all want to see it well used. So our European Court of Auditors can't go and audit. That's not part of the game. It's the national supreme audit institution that audits. And of course, I want that the money gets well used. I want that this money gets properly controlled, as it should be. So a good quality audit is of great interest to me, as a European taxpayer, just as well. So I can only say, please, go on doing a great job, as great as today, and even better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan, and particularly for those last words, words of encouragement from one of our stakeholders. Are there other donor partners that want to share? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bob Creswell. I work for the International Fund for Agricultural Development in Rome, which is a UN specialized agency, and it's also a very small IFI, but growing. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this argument. IFAD has always been very strongly committed to using national systems where we've performed assessments such that we can actually rely on them. In many cases, we use the assessments of other donors. We're fairly small. We do limited assessments ourselves, but we really draw on common assessments out in the public domain. So the more information that's shared, the less time we use ourselves and of the INTOSAI members in coming up to our conclusions. So I really urge, please share information publicly as much as possible. And then even one-to-one confidentially if the public option is not possible, because the more we can share, the more efficient will be our work. We always engage with the Auditor Generals on mission when we do implementation support and supervision missions. And I just wanted to recount one story, if you'll permit me, with meeting the Auditor General of Kenya. And I just wanted to reiterate how important leadership is. And I happened to be 10 minutes late in the Nairobi traffic getting to one of his meetings. And it was to discuss the audit findings from the fiscal year end. And I went into the room, and the room was full. He'd asked all his auditors, the directors, deputy directors, to come from the districts. So they travelled the length of the country to come and meet with me really kindly. And I was 10 minutes late, having been stuck in traffic and then went to the wrong building. And I felt dreadful. So Eddie, well done. I couldn't, leadership is key. I think you set the message, absolutely. And if you've noticed, I've never been late again. So thank you for that. Sorry, back to the argument where we were. So I think when we look for using standards, the absolute bottom line is that if you say that you're doing something in compliance with a standard, then you have to deliver what the label says on the tin. If you don't do what you say you're doing, then you're exposing yourself to a reputational risk. And I think that risk management and the public perception, particularly to do with auditing, is absolutely vital, because your credibility and your trust disintegrates very, very fast, and it takes a long time to build up. So if you're going to make a claim that you're doing something, then really I think you have to make sure that you do it. As part of our review of our investment projects audits, we do look at we review every audited financial statement and performance audit. And we do have a peer review process. So about half of our audits are done by Supreme Audit institutions. It is increasing as we build the grants through IDI. We're working with IDI. So when we look at the quality of the audit reports, about 2/3 we rate either satisfactory or highly satisfactory. Now, some of those are from private audit firms, not only SAIs. I don't have the disaggregated data. But pretty much just about a third or more are not fully satisfactory. Some of those we actually ask to be redone. You know, when we get a good audit report, they pick out, particularly through a management letter, we pick out some really fantastic areas where we can improve the impact of our resources. Very often they point to weak internal controls, contract management issues, gaps in accounting systems, where there are communication gaps in highly decentralized projects. So I urge, as part of the audit, please deliver a management letter and squeeze the value out of this audit process, which does have a cost. I'd also urge that it's apparent that too few audit closure meetings take place. You know, you look at the audit report and it's it can be fairly damning. But then you look at the management response, and it's clear that the issues weren't discussed at the end of the audit. So that again is quite a common issue. Now, I think it was last year, with the adoption of ESAI, I think it's 1701. It's the ISA 701 when the model of the audit report changed. Well, that actually gave us a very good insight into which auditors were following the standards and which weren't, because the ones who claimed to follow the standards but hadn't changed the format of their audit report, that was really telling. It was visible. It was on the page 1 of the audited financial statements. So you know, it was a bit of an eye-opener to us, and I think having done the benchmarking survey, I think is fantastic. And I think the more candid we can be about where the gaps are, then the more effective will be the implementation support. So, you know, I think it's fantastic. Thank you for being proactive on that argument. And I think there is a collaborative approach to make this work together. Thank you.
Thank you for all your observations and quite a few recommendations to individual SAIs when it comes to the audit practices. It's actually not very common that external stakeholders turn the tables on us and talk about international standards and our own compliance to the international standards. And I think it's a useful reminder of what this session is all about, quality, and how we can assure systems for quality control and quality assurance. Thank you again. Now, are there any other observations from our donor partners in the room? Yes, I see Anne. Please, Anne.
I just want to support what other colleagues have said, but I also want to maybe give you an example. On our side, on the donor side, I work myself in internal audit, and I've recently been what we call EQA'd. I've been externally quality assured, and it was quite an interesting experience. It was the first time, but the most important thing for me to emphasize to you is that under our internal auditing standards, we were obliged to be externally quality assured. We were, under our standards, told that this was obligatory, and we were given a time frame. and it applied to all of us who were operating as internal auditors. I'm happy to say the result was positive, but I think I just really want to emphasize to everybody that if we want our work to be appreciated and valued and relied upon, I think quality assurance is here to stay. It's not going away, and I think it's a question of you know, getting with the program immediately, because I think it's the way forward. I really just wanted to share that with you, that it's something we all experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and you are from Irish Aid, isn't it? So that everyone knows. Thank you. I will now turn myself to the regional organizations present. We know that many of you have support activities as far as quality control and quality assurance goes. Are there any of the regions who would like to share with the group what you are doing in support to your member sites in this area? And may I also toss in the two questions posed by Einar to see if you have any reflections on that. I'm not quite sure which region wants to step in first. Yes, INTOSAI.
Thank you. Akira Imamura from Board of Audit of Japan. I represent INTOSAI. To respond to the question about what are the barriers to well-functioning quality control and quality assurance, the short answer is lack of resources, but not mainly financial, but mainly human resources, and lack of sufficient understanding of the importance. And so we emphasize these issues in our knowledge sharing and capacity development activities at INTOSAI regional level. And we have been having seminars, INTOSAI seminars, workshop. Seminars are for senior auditors, and workshops are for junior auditors. And through these activities, we can safely say that the participants share the importance of quality control and quality assurance in each of their sides. Normally, these events are participated by 20 to 30 sides. And also for junior auditors, we feel that we always have a very strong sense that they gain understanding of importance of ISAI 40 whenever we discuss about we take the topic of take up the topic of performance audit, for example. So that is making progress. And let me we don't have any statistic views like the stock taking report at our regional level handy with me right now, but let me share with you a couple of common observations we got through these knowledge sharing capacity development activities at INTOSAI. Two observations. One is the importance of distinguishing quality assurance and quality control. And oftentimes people mix up and try to establish or think of establishing quality assurance when they don't have sufficient quality control. So what we emphasize in these activities is the importance of having effective quality control in place, and the quality assurance that you would like to have should reflect the state of quality control you have in each of your sites. So that's one observation, common thing that we had. And second observation is the diversity of INTOSAI members' size. We differ in terms of size, in terms of mandate, function. Of course, you mentioned about the level of income. We have very varying socio-economic situations. So we should really think hard about the quality assurance activities. Also has to reflect these differences. So quality assurance should be different from each other. Maybe big size can focus. They don't have to, assure everything, but focus where there's a risk when they do this activity. Small size, maybe they don't have enough resources, so they might want to establish a quality assurance unit, but not functioning all the time, maybe when it's necessary, a temporarily functioning unit. And those size which doesn't have any quality assurance unit yet, many INTOSAI member size said that peer review could be a catalyst for establishing such a unit. And we'll continue. Lastly, would like to say that this kind of activities into the future. I'm glad that IDI mentioned about the quality assurance reviewer. We also had with IDI joint event on the disaster management audit. INTOSAI region is very prone to disasters. And we did the cooperative audit in disaster management audit. And then they, at the end, the IDI quality assurance reviewer did review for those attempts by our member size. So we look forward to that kind of activity into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before letting the next regional organization in, Einar, a question to you. I remember there was a box you could tick in the global survey whether or not the information could be shared with the regional organization. Could you, what kind of statistics would be available for regional organizations from the global survey?
Thank you, Magnus. Here you really caught me out. I'm not sure actually what the statistics said, but I do think that the data here is available to the regions. And certainly there are regional aggregates on everything, so we will be more than happy to provide all the information to the regions as per region. For some of the questions, the SEIs gave an authority to actually give it size-specific, but I can't remember specifically which questions that were. But the regional data is certainly there.
But in short, the regions have a resource to tap when it comes to understanding their own regional picture and to see, I mean, they are welcome to contact IDI.
Yes, both on this and any other topic from the stock taking, be it independence, ISA implementation, etc.
Thank you for that clarification, Einar. Yes, Eurosai.
Good afternoon. My name is Agnieszka, and at the moment I'm representing Eurosai region. The audit assurance, audit control was running through Eurosai activity for a number of years. In the past, we had a seminar dedicated to this topic. It was the theme of congresses in the past. Actually, as a result of the discussion held at one of the Congress, one document was prepared. It was good practices in managing quality within size, and it was prepared in 2010. And then there was agreed that it is not enough. We have to continue. The best practices appear now and then, and we have electronic database on good practices on quality. Audit quality. Now we have the figures from the global survey, And regarding the EUROSAI region, they are quite high, but of course not satisfactory. So we are going to continue this topic, and actually in a month's time we are organizing a seminar devoted to audit methodology, and one of the components of the seminar will be audit quality. During this seminar, we are gathering people who are directly involved in audit planning and audit methodology in particular European size. So we hope that during this event we will manage to identify those gaps, even small gaps, which really puts size from implementing ISAI 40 totally. And actually this is not the end, because in EUROSAI strategic plan we are going to focus on further promotion and implementation, practical implementation of ISAIs in the future. And actually we are going to encourage and our members to for institutional development through also evaluation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Yes, I see. Pasai. To you, please.
Yes.
Oh, I think it was Pasai first. Sorry, this.
Thank you, Theo from Pasai. Firstly, I'd like to thank Aina for the presentation, also for sharing the data from the global stock taking report. We've used the report. We have taken out the PASAI data from the report, and also tried to because in PASAI we have a supporting size and we have a participating size, so we try to capture information. We've also identified information from there and we use it. So we presented it to our Congress and also our governing board. And we will be using the global stock taking report as a base data going forward for our work. In terms of quality control and quality assurance with PASAI, as shown in the information, that there have been some improvements from 2014, but from the and that's a positive outcome. But with the CIBMF assessment going on now, and we look forward for the reports, it will provide us also with some information, evidence based on our size. To see and to check on the data that we have now from the stock taking report, and see how that is set up in the size. Our members, they have the one from the north, they are very well established with their system on the quality control, because they are in quality assurance, because they comply with the KCAS from the US one. But we are trying to see how we can use that experience that they have with their QC and the QA to also share with the other sites in PASAI. We identified that some of our members, they have established a system, but to use the system and also to ensure that they incorporate and factor in their work, it's lacking in some part. So it's one of the issues that we are looking at. As mentioned by the colleague from INTOSAI, that it is, I think, one of the barriers for us also is understanding the need to carry out QC and also to do the QA, and also the awareness of and the importance of doing it. During one of the PEFA assessment of one of the country in the Pacific, there was a question posed to PASAI, to the region, from the PEFA assessment team on about who checked the standards of the auditors of the sites when they do the audit, And I think there's a question that we raised in our Congress last week. And one of the sides, again raised the issue on quality assurance. So it's something that that we are looking forward to do in the future, and it's important to include. And we also have included it in our program. We've done about 5 cooperative audits, and the 6th one was the SDGs. When we completed the 5 cooperative performance audits, we did a quality a survey on a quality assurance on how did we perform on these audits, and we issued a report on the high quality audit, and it's available on our website. But it helped us to see how we continue to improve the quality of the audit, which is one of our strategic priorities. Going forward, as mentioned, and as stated in Aina's presentation, we are having a regional workshop on quality assurance in November with IDI, and that will also provide an opportunities for members of PASAI to really understand the concept and also the importance of doing that. And also we're looking forward to build more capacity on quality reviewers in our region. Thank you.
Thank you to you. Now I think it's time for AFROSAI. So.
Thank you, Magnus. It's from CREFIAF.
CREFIAF, okay.
And AFROSAI, but CREFIAF mainly. So, thank you for Einar presentation. As you know, CREFIAF is mainly composed by SAIs with jurisdictional responsibilities. So we have recently issued a quality control and quality assurance manual, which can be found in CREFIAF website. This manual have been drawn in reference to what is being done in the global arena. It has been, when we issued it, SAIs with jurisdictional power found it a little bit confusing because, as Einar stated in the data, the process we have in our SAIs, there is a lot of quality control in it, even though it's not aligned with what is done in SAIs with audit function. What we think here is that, as we are doing when we try in the professionalization to bring together all type of SAI, we think that in this matter too, we have to have the same way to handle quality control and quality assurance. It's why last AFROSAI CBC meeting, which were held in Accra in last April, we decided to go towards what is done by all other sides of the world as far as quality assurance and quality control is concerned. We signed last year an agreement with Eurosai in their meeting in Istanbul to bring them to help AFROSAI to go towards more quality control and quality assurance. And in this perspective, a meeting we plan to have a meeting next December in Cairo, where we will ask Eurosai to send us experts, as Eurosai has a lot of SAIs which have the same organizations and SAIs in CREFIAF, which are jurisdictional SAIs. We will ask them to send us 2 or 3 experts to go through all what is needed to have good quality control and quality assurance in our SAI. the perspective here is we in jurisdictional size, what we were doing so far is to consider that in our system, all what we are doing is controlled within ourselves. For instance, when the judicial part, you have the Bureau of the Prosecutor, who is independent and who review all what the other part of the side is doing. So far we considered that as a strong quality control system. But as we are in a global profession, we recognize that we have to go towards what is done in the global arena. So I think that after the Cairo meeting, it will be easier to explain to all sides with jurisdictional powers that the quality control and the quality assurance should be done in the same way in all sides of the INTOSAI world. So it's our perspective now is first of all to bring CREFIAF size to consider quality control and quality assurance a very important thing in their activities, and to bring them to recognize that quality control and quality assurance we are doing just as jurisdictional size should be transformed, should be developed to go towards what is done by all other type of size. And we consider that after the Cairo meeting, the concept of quality assurance it will be possible to expand it in all sides with jurisdictional responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that CREFIAF perspective. And I see Macy want to add from a AfroSAI perspective, isn't it?
Yes, Magnus, thank you very much. If it's okay with you. I think I've shared earlier in terms of the quality assurance, the process that we follow in AfroSAI, and I just want to add a little bit more. We have a program where we train quality assurance reviewers within the region. Currently, we have trained about 56 people in the region, and we have 40 certified quality assurance reviewers. And what does that mean? Once we have trained somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a certified quality assurance reviewer. You have to perform quality reviews in your own country and accompany our team and learn from those experiences. Only then do we certify you. So those that haven't been certified, we are either waiting for them to send files so that we can review them and see if they are in line with what the review process that they are required to meet, and also test them on the ground as well, that they are able to perform the quality reviews in line with our standards. The intention is definitely to move towards more size, having more quality assurance units. And yes, I agree with what you have said, Aina, in your presentation, that more size reflect that they have quality assurance units. When in fact, when we go in and do the quality assurance review, the result is different. I'm proud to say that the AGs that are here, they do have quality assurance units in their sites that are working effectively. However, we have a number of sites in our region that do not have quality assurance units, and there are a number of challenges that they face. One, I agree with my colleague from CREFIAF, professionalization is a problem. As you know, we have started a project on professionalization because the person that is in the quality assurance assurance unit is the person that should be of a very high standard and should be in a position and in a standing to be able to point out any quality gaps with authority. The other challenge that we face is the issue of the legislation, where most of our sites are dependent on the Public Service Commission for resources, and the quality and the level of the person that they require to be in the quality assurance review is not part of their structure. So it becomes quite difficult for them to recruit people that they can use effectively in the quality assurance unit. And these are the things that we are dealing with. The other factor, there are quite a number of factors, but the last factor that I want to talk to is the institutional maturity. As I've indicated earlier, we do publish a State of the Region report that indicates where the institution is in terms of the maturity, and that becomes a problem. The size, our colleague from INTOSAI indicated the size of the SAI also is a problem. You know, whether they can afford a quality assurance unit. Now, the programs that we have in AfroSAI to support our sites in the region, as I've indicated earlier, we perform the quality assurance reviews every 3 years, and we compare these to the self-assessment results, and we have a discussion with the AG to identify the gaps and to put together an action plan from the SAI to address these gaps that we have identified. Obviously, the response to these recommendations that we put forward would be quite slow because most of our sites are dependent on their governments, and it depends on the support that they get from their governments or the funding that they have, for that matter, within the SAI to be in a position to address these findings effectively. I think I have covered everything. Thank you very much. If Gordon says I have, then I have.
Thank you, Maisie. Please, another comment from Arabusai. Yes.
To answer the two questions that we raised, so as regards barrier to quality assurance and to quality control, I think that based on the Arabusai experience, there's a number of problems and barriers that we can share with the participant. First of all, there's some sort of lack of awareness among the region of the importance of quality assurance and quality control. And second of all, the lack of awareness is directly linked to the fact that many of SAIs are not really implementing standard as the way INTOSAI standard require, and then this is a real barrier to any quality assurance system or any quality assurance control to be conducted by SAIs. Second of all, I think that this may contradict with the conclusion set out within the stock-taking report, but I think for the Arabusai region, the most important problem is basically linked to the fact that a number of SAIs don't really see any, don't see quality assurance as relevant as compared to quality control. Many of them do quality control, but they don't give that much importance to quality assurance. I don't know if that match with the stock-taken results regarding Arabusai region. One more key issue is that as regards what Ina considered to be a clear conclusion that size with jurisdictional power don't really set up, don't have quality assurance and quality control function. I think this is something that we, as a Court of Accounts, see it as a little bit normal, because when you do have jurisdictional power, you cannot get or make rulings or cases quality assured, because judges are supposed to be independent, and it is really hard to, let's say, to examine and to assess whether these rulings have been in compliance with any quality assurance requirement. And this is why maybe it's a real problem to have a quality assurance system within size with jurisdictional power. And this leads to a second barrier, which is some sort of variation among the region. Arab region, all size don't have the same maturity level regarding quality assurance system. Some of them have a permanent activity regarding quality assurance. Others do not have any of these. And variation among region makes things harder for the region to extend or to set up some sort of common understanding of this requirements, and to set up any regional quality assurance function or system. As regards to the second question, because I'm talking about the previous situation, because since UNTITLED started to design its strategic plan, I mean, there's a raise of awareness among the region, and this is why it has been decided within this strategic plan to give much importance to quality assurance, and to try to achieve, and an objective has been set for achievement, as to set up a regional group to be in charge of performance quality assurance reviews, like, for example, UNTITLED, and lately, as Ian explained in his presentation, in Pasai, I think, or SSI.
Thank you, Murad.
No, I'm just about to finish my contribution. I was we are now currently preparing for setting up a regional quality assurance group, and to write down quality assurance handbook. And for that, in the coming few weeks, we'll be having a quality assurance joint workshop with UNTITLED in Pretoria. And based on these workshop, we will select from these participant expert that we will regroup within a regional expert quality assurance group. And starting afterwards, we will be, of course, designing and planning and implementing quality assurance review among the region, in the light of which will be, of course, get results and draw conclusion regarding what, how, and the extent to which size are really implementing and having quality assurance system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murad, for sharing also UNTITLED's reflections. And thank you also for reflecting a bit on Einar's questions. Ola Seps, I think, will be the last contributor during this session. Please. The mic in the front, please.
Thank you. Latin America, Caribbean, we have a lot of the training in capacity building. In the last 3 years, we trained more or less 4,000 auditors in many fields. And about the quality control, Vitor can explain, because we have this responsibility in other countries. But the capacity building training, 4,000, and we continues with many cooperation between the countries. Vitor.
Thank you. So in OLSFs, we conducted in the beginning of 2016 broad needs assessment of all SAIs in OLSFs. And we're doing a new one now. And in the previous one, which was the basis for our capacity building plan, we identified the major needs of all size and tried to make sure we had one course offering, whether it be an e-learning course or a face-to-face course, or some other capacity building initiative to address all the needs. One of them was quality control, quality assurance, and we had an e-learning course in 2017 offered by SAI Venezuela. But this year they weren't able to offer it. So it is a need that we have in OLSFs, and I think it would be great, in fact, for if there was some region that had, that could offer some type of cooperation with OLSFs on quality control, would be very interested in having that. Also very interested in the PASAI experience with coordinated audits. I think it's something that we could work with Peru and try to incorporate into our coordinated audits, quality control mechanisms. I also just lastly wanted to mention, I actually thought the subject was going to be a bit different, and we have quality control, I think, is something we can also think about in our OLSF's products. So this is, of course, not in auditing, but of the courses that we offer. So this is something, we have a subgroup within our capacity building committee in OLSFs working on developing, we've actually piloted already satisfaction surveys of those who have taken the coursework, and now we're developing, this task force is led by SAI Argentina, and they're developing now an impact survey as well to see, and this should be implemented sometime next year, to see the impact of capacity building initiatives in audit work. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing in that last bit of quality also in the capacity building activities we do, and to ensuring that we do has an impact that is of quality. I think that is something we need to bring with us all the time. Now it's time to round up this regional forum on quality assurance and quality control systems within INTOSAI and INTOSAI regions. I would like to thank our two colleagues from Arabusai, Murad and Hajer, for sharing your journey, your ongoing journey. I would like to thank Einar for reflecting on the use and the content of the global survey, acknowledging also the advice and challenges we had from external partners, our donor partners, which I think further energized many of us in seeking higher quality. And finally, all the valuable contributions from the regional organizations, showing the diversity in approaches and also many of the common challenges we have in ensuring quality in our work. And perhaps two final reflections from my side would be, do like Arabusai, find yourself a partner. Partner up with someone in order to improve further in seeking excellence in our work. And the second bit of advice, use the data that is available. Make sure that if you, not only when it comes to quality assurance, of course, but make sure that you use the data that is available in the global survey. And if you have any further questions as a regional organization, what that data is, contact IDI. I said early on when we opened up after lunch that there was a cliffhanger, and that cliffhanger is now. So stay put, there will be some rearrangements made, and I will give the floor to Kimi.
Thanks very much, Magnus, and thank you for the very good summary you've made of the afternoon session. Just because we're going to just do a quick rearrangement, I'll probably just ask if we all do a leg stretch without leaving the room. It's going to be a quick one. We just have a formal activity to perform in the next 2 minutes. Please don't leave the room. You might as well stand and